It was, when all said and done, a frankly bizarre and rather surreal press conference. Remember, it was billed as Biden's big boy conference. This was his big boy. This was a completely unscripted event that began with Biden using a teleprompter for his opening remarks. Yes, Biden began his unscripted press conference by reading from a script. And then after that, he did this.
I'll take your questions. I've been given a list of people to call on here. Reuters, Jeff Mason.
So again, this big boy press conference for old poopy pants, this completely unscripted press conference begins with Biden delivering a scripted intro, and then he reads from a script on who he's going to call from. Again, I want this to sink in. When have you ever seen anything even remotely like this? What other world leader is doing this? What other politician is doing this, period? When have you ever seen a press conference, like one where the president begins with a teleprompter for his opening remarks and then calls on members of the press from a previously approved list of names? If this isn't the definition of choreographed, I don't know what is. Now, what followed, as you would expect, given the only people who are allowed to ask questions are those who were pre-approved, what followed were puffball, kid gloves questions from an obviously corrupt establishment press corps. Question after question, again, clearly choreographed to deliberately desperately try to make Biden seem cogent and coherent and competent. But Biden obviously knew the questions ahead of time. Some think he had something in his ear just by the way he was speaking. We don't know. And of course, we shouldn't put that past them. And yet, despite all of that obvious choreography, despite all of that, here is how Biden answered his first question.
Do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
Let's start there. Let's start off this press conference, my big boy moment, with one of the biggest gaffes of my presidency. Let's start with a major gaffe, referring to the vice president as Trump. Now, you all know that gaffe was bad enough, but you all know that wasn't it. You all know that wasn't it. You all know that gaffe came on the heels of an even more consequential gaffe earlier in the day when Biden was introducing Ukrainian President Zelensky to the podium. And here is his utterly cringeworthy introduction.
Now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Right? He may be better, but Biden sure ain't. I mean, that gaffe, it wasn't, look, let's just be honest, it wasn't just a gaffe. That was painful idiocy on display for all the world to see. That was idiocy. No other world leader would have done that. No other world leader would have expressed himself in such a painfully idiotic mistake. I mean, that, of all the gaffes you can make with Volodymyr Zelensky, that's the last one. Introducing him as his mortal enemy in the time of war is probably the last one. Here's how Red Eagle Politics put it. I thought this was very clever. Biden called Zelensky, Putin, and Kamala Trump a couple hours apart, arguably two of the worst gaffes of his presidency, both at a time when he's trying to prove he's still, quote, with it. Glorious. It was glorious. And that constant Biden deference to anyway, when he embarrasses himself, when he starts losing his train of thought, that, of course, was literally littered all throughout the press conference.
This is, anyway, in the next debate, I'm not going to be traveling into 15 time zones a week before. Anyway, I'm catching hell from my wife for that. Anyway, it wasn't about just, read what his objective is. And but then again, they're better than a lot of other people here too. But anyway.
Now, of course, the press conference had what are now becoming routine Biden cognitive malfunctions like this one.
And I think you'll see that some of our European friends are going to be curtailing their investment in Russia. In China, as long as China continues to have this indirect help to Russia in terms of being able to help their economy as well as help them in as a consequence of that their ability to fight in Ukraine.
Yeah. I don't know what he just said there. I don't think he knows what he just said there, right? It's one of those moments. And there was even a moment of extraordinary irony.
Who goes would inform you.
Am I using that way?
Are you thinking that way about how the next two
down I can't get the job done? That's a sign that I shouldn't be doing it. But there's no indication of that yet. None. What do I got here? Merrick, Pulaski Radio.
All right, for some reason that clip got interrupted. I don't know what that was, but basically he said, if I slow down, I can't get the job done. And that's a sign that I shouldn't be doing it. But there's no indication of that. None. And then he goes, okay. Someone help me read this list. Now, there were at least some reporters among that feckless lot, that pre-approved feckless lot, that did ask some pressing questions about Biden's fledgling campaign. And Biden's response, of course, did not disappoint. Take a look.
Who goes would inform you.
Am I using that way?
Are you thinking that way about how the next 2 weeks go? Will that affect your decision? Or are you fully determined on running in November as the party's nominee?
I'm determined on running, but I think it's important that I allay fears by let them see me out there. Let me see them out. For the longest time it was, Biden's not prepared to sit with us unscripted. Biden's not prepared to, anyway.
Are you worried about this cognitive decline coming? Oh no, anyway, defers again to his anyway. And at the end of this conference, perhaps the most fitting end to this, frankly, train wreck of a campaign, Biden was asked about President Trump's response to his confusing him with Kamala Harris. Trump had already been tweeting out what a goof Biden is in confusing him with Kamala Harris. Here's what Biden had to say.
This concludes.
Respectfully, earlier you misspoke in your opening answer. You referred to Vice President Harris as Vice President Trump. Right now, Donald Trump is using that to mock your age and your memory. How do you combat that criticism from tonight?
Listen to him.
This concludes tonight's press conference. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everyone.
I mean, seriously? What kind of answer was that? Listen to him. What does that even mean? Listen to him. What does that? And then he just shuffles off the stage, the Biden shuffle. I'll give him that, by the way. He didn't get lost getting off the stage. I'll give him that. It was, I don't even know what to say here. Here's the headline. I'll let the New York Post say it. Here's the headline from this morning's edition. Blunder of the world. Note, not wonder. Blunder of the world, with the byline.